Tech unicorn Byju has raised $250 million in a fresh funding round with participation from existing investors, including Qatar Investment Authority.
Byju's units in the US will be forced into Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
Between that $22 billion and that bankruptcy, $533 million disappeared. It didn't go to a competitor, it didn't go to a write-off, it went to a hedge fund in Florida with one employee. A 23-year-old with no experience, no track record, nothing. And the official registered address of that hedge fund was an IHOP, a pancake restaurant in Miami. By the time anyone figured it out, that 23-year-old already had bought a Ferrari, Lamborghini, and a Rolls-Royce. A US court later called it deliberate fraud on a global scale. But that pancake restaurant isn't where this story starts. This story starts with a teacher from Kerala who filled stadiums, who built something real, and who, somewhere between those classrooms and that 22 billion valuation, stopped building company around education and started building one around belief. How did India's most valuable startup collapse this completely? Why did no one stop it? And what does a pancake restaurant in Miami have to do with the dreams of millions of Indian students? This is what happened. Byju Raveendran grew up in a small village in Kerala. The son of two teachers, he was just good at maths. In 2003, his friend asked him to help them crack CAT, India's toughest MBA exam. He said yes, taught them in his own style, and they all passed. Word spread, classes got bigger. By 2007, he was filling stadiums. Thousands of students, one man, and a microphone. The teaching was real, the results were real. SoftBank noticed, Sequoia noticed. By 2022, Byju was valued at $22 billion. At that valuation, you are not just selling education anymore. You are selling the promise that education has already been solved. So when COVID hit and the school shut down overnight, Byju didn't just see a crisis, they saw a chance to get even bigger. Therefore, he went shopping. $2.8 billion, 12 companies, 8 months. But the money wasn't coming from profits. It was coming from next investor's check. In FY 2021, Byju spent 2 rupees for every one it earned. That's when the story stopped looking like growth. But the calls that followed didn't come from investments asking questions either. They came from parents. Because most sales agents wouldn't take no for an answer. Contracts buried in fine print, EMI loans taken in parents' name, and refunds denied. In some homes, the pitch wasn't just buy a course, it was don't let your child fall behind. That fear worked, and the most absurd symbol of that fear was Wolf Gupta. Whitehead Jr. ran a campaign built around a fictional 9-year-old who had supposedly landed a job at Google with a multi-crore salary, all learning code from the app. Wolf Gupta wasn't real. He was invented to make one thing feel urgent, that if your child wasn't on the platform right now, they were already losing. When a software engineer started exposing the campaign on YouTube, Whitehead Jr. sued him for 20 crore rupees and had his videos taken down. India's advertising regulator pulled 15 of those ads. By then, the cracks were obvious. This wasn't just a company selling education. It was a company selling fear. And to keep going, they needed more money. So in 2021, Byju's US subsidiary went to American lenders and raised $1.2 billion. In 2022, 533 million of that, nearly half, disappeared. Lenders went looking. What they found was companies called Camshaft Capital Fund, registered in Florida. One employee. Its founder, William C. Madaan, was 23 years old. No investment experience, no track record, no credentials. And the official registered address of this hedge fund was an IHOP, a pancake restaurant in Miami. The US bankruptcy code in Delaware didn't mince words. Actual fraudulent transfer, deliberate fraud on global scale. Byju called the lenders vulture funds, executing a corporate raid. Today, he is contesting $1 billion judgment from Dubai. And yet, nothing about this collapse was invisible. The losses were in the filings. The complaints were in the headlines. The Wolf Gupta ad was on television. The $533 million transfer was in the accounts. But Byju's had become too valuable to question. When a company reaches $22 billion, every investor has too much to lose by being the one who asks questions and says stop. So the system kept moving. Byju Raveendran started as a teacher who genuinely changed lives. That part was real. But somewhere between the stadiums and the 22 billion valuation, he stopped building company around teaching and started building around one belief. And once a belief becomes product, reality always shows up later, usually with interest. And sometimes with a pancake restaurant in Miami. Subscribe if you want to understand how India's biggest business stories actually work. Not the version in the headlines, but what's really going underneath. And tell me in the comments, do you think Byju knew exactly where that 533 million was going? Or did he lose control of his own company?